Hello my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to show you these little heart embroidered ornaments that I made and show you how to make them. So a complete beginner to embroidery could do this. It's just a few simple stitches and I'm going to show you all of them. And the actual ornament is made from a wool blend felt. So we have kits, I'll link that below. You can just grab that and it'll have the felt, the embroidery floss, and then I also have some templates. So this will be a downloadable PDF that I will link as well. Templates and stitch guide. So you can cut out this heart and then you can get your wool felt, place the cutout heart on there, and then use that to cut your felt out. So we need one for the front and one for the back. And then whatever you want for the inner color, we need just a small one. You can do the backs if you want, I just did the front. So if you wanted to actually use my template as a thing that you can stitch over, you can get some chalk and trace over all these lines, and then you can put your felt over top of it and rub on it, and then when you take it away it will actually have all that as a guide, so you can just stitch right over it. So some of the stitches we're going to use in this project are the running stitch, which is the most basic of embroidery stitches. It just looks like this dashed line here. And then we'll also use the split stitch, which is like the running stitch, but it creates a solid line. And then also for filling in these areas, we use what's called the satin stitch. It's just a bunch of long stitches that there's just so much of them, it just makes a full coverage. And then these X's are called the cross stitch. It's really easy, I'll show you how to do that. And then this here is pretty cool. This is called the Lazy Daisy. It's like an easy way to make a flower stitch. I like that one. And then I did some French knots in there too. I can show you how to do that. And then for these are just long stitches. Okay, so first we're going to separate our thread. So you can see embroidery floss has 6 strands. If you look at those little tiny strands, there's 6 strands, and I've split them into 3 and 3. And so when you embroider, usually you only want to have 3 of them. So to split them, what I like to do is take my elbow, you can't see it, but I have my elbow on the strand back here, holding it down to the table so that I can take both of my hands and pull them apart. I'm not sure how to hold this so you can see it, but you can also put it in your mouth, but I find the elbow works a little better. You just see how if you try to pull it, it just kind of bunches up. But if you hold it down to the table with your elbow, or like right now I'm kind of pushing my body up to the table, so it's just holding that string down so that you can pull from all 3 directions. So we just want to separate it into 3 strands instead of 6. See how it does if you don't hold on to it, but maybe it'll work because we're right at the end. There we go. Okay, and then we'll just tie a little knot at the bottom. So just do a little overhand knot like this. And just to be sure that it's not gonna pop back out, we'll just do a knot in the same spot. So to make it land in the same spot, start tightening it down, and then when it's almost there, make sure it's gonna land where it needs to be. There we go. Okay, so we've got our needle threaded, so let's start with the running stitch. So this is the most basic stitch of embroidery. I'm just gonna kind of stitch around this heart-shaped hole I have here. Maybe this will turn into something. So I'm just going to start at the bottom here. So you're going to come up from the bottom so that your knot is underneath, like this, and pull it up. And then this is very basic. We're just going to make basically like a dashed line. So I'll kind of lay my thread there and envision where I want this to go. And then however long you make the first stitch, that's how long you want all the stitches to be so they look even. Unless of course you don't want them even, then that'd be up to you too. So we'll just go maybe like right there and go back down. pull through. Okay, so there's our first little dash. So if you want the spaces in between the dashes to be the same size as the dashes, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go right here, come up from the bottom, pull, and then just kind of estimate how far that needs to be the same as the other one, and about right there. Just like that. And that's the running stitch. So next, let's try the split stitch. So that will create a solid line. So like how I did those rounded lines up here, I didn't want those to be a dashed line, I wanted them to be solid. So if we were going to make a solid line, here's what you'd want to do. You'd use the split stitch. So we'll come up just like before, and then we'll go down like before, just measuring that amount with your eyeball or with an actual measuring device at first if you need to. And also don't worry about it if they're not all the same. If you're not bothered, just don't worry about it. Okay, so now when we come back up, instead of coming up the distance, like to make it the same distance, the space to the other stitch, instead of going the full distance, we're just going to half that. So I'm just going to go right here. So I'm going to come back up right there. See how that little gap is about half? From there to there is about half as from there to there. So I came up, pull it through, and then I'm going to put the needle back down in, splitting that stitch in half. So I'm just piercing it through and pulling it. So now we're kind of working backwards. So see that? So we split it and we made a split stitch. Now we have a big long stitch. So we'll do that again. So we're just going to come up right about there. Pull it up. And then split the stitch. So I'm estimating the distance about how long one of those running stitches would have been. But this is kind of forgiving with the distance. It doesn't really matter if you're not exact because it just forms a solid line anyway. So nobody's really going to see that too much. And you can make these as long or short as you want to. If you're doing curves like this, you have to end up making them kind of short, or you end up with these little feathered out angles that you don't really intend to have. So the smaller you make them, the nicer your curves can look. Like you can see I did pretty well on that one, and then I started maybe Russian or something. So you just come up, moving. So like if you're moving right to left, just come up to the right, but then you're going to go down and go to the left. So it's kind of like one step forward, two steps forward, one step back kind of thing. Okay, next let's try the cross stitch. This one's also really simple. So I'm just going to envision where I want my X to be. Here's how they'll look. Now when you take these and you go all the way around this heart, I'm going to be honest, it was a little tricky to make them all symmetrical and look not like weird, because if you're going in a straight line, like this was all fine and dandy right here, but then once I got up into here, I had to really think about, and I had to redo a couple to make them look nice. So I would draw these out first if you're gonna do X's that go on a curved line or need to be symmetrical in any way. If you're just going in a straight line or in like something like grid-like, it would be fine. Okay, so let's do a cross stitch. So we're just gonna come up. So I'm gonna go a little bit like down here so that my cross is like, or my X is like the center of my X is equal with that line. So I'm gonna come up down here, maybe pull through, and then you can kind of lay your thread there to visualize it before you actually take the stitch. So that looks like a nice 45-degree angle. And I'm going to come down like that. Pull through. There's one line of our X. So when you come back up, you want to visualize that where you're coming up is going to be straight down from that line, and it's going to be straight over from that line. So that your X is nice and squared and not lopsided. That part about there looks good. And then same thing when you go back down, kind of visualize over and down, and you're looking for that kind of like an L, like a corner, and you're going to go into that corner like it's a square. There we go. Got a nice little X. Let's do it again. So I'm just going to travel over here and have one come up. See, now we're coming around a curve, so maybe I'll have it go like right there. Maybe I kind of want it the same distance from that edge, so maybe I'll start up here like that. And come back down right here. Come back up in the corner of your imaginary square, right there. And back down. So there's the cross stitch. So what we're doing is called embroidery, but what you can also do is called cross stitch, where all you do is make X's. You only make the X stitch. And usually you would do that into an Aida cloth, which would be like a coarsely woven cloth where all the threads are going this way and then the other threads are going this way. So then you have actual little holes to work into, so they're already perfectly measured out. You're not having to visualize and decide where those go. Actually, I had some right here so I can show you. You can see that you could use these little holes, and then you know where to put your X's. Okay, let's do the lazy daisy. I love to do the lazy daisy. So you're gonna come up through wherever you want the center of your flower to be, and then you're gonna go back down pretty much in that same hole. Now we're going to be going through this a lot in the same hole, so we're not going to go exactly truly in the same exact spot. You're going to kind of imagine a little cluster, like a little tiny circle that you're going to work, not exactly in the same exact spot. Okay, so we're going to go back down in the same spot, kind of. I'm going to kind of just work counterclockwise around a little imaginary circle. So I'm going to go down and pull, but don't pull it all the way. Okay, leave a little loop. This is what's going to become our petal. Okay, and then however long you want that petal to be, like maybe I want mine that size, then I'm going to come back up right at the tip of that, inside of it though, like that. And pull that up through. Okay, and then you just do like a little downward stitch going down to tack that down. So now we're going back down. So there's one petal. So then I'm just gonna go in my counterclockwise motion here, make my next one. So I'm gonna come up through in the center. And then back down in the center, just a little bit to the right of that one. Pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through. And then wherever I want that petal to end, like maybe I'll just imagine over from here, I want it to be like right there. That's where I'm gonna come up with my needle. Inside of the petal. Like that. And then when you pull it, that petal will just lock onto where that thread is. And then you'll just take another little tacking stitch outside of the petal like that. And so I'm making my circle quite exaggerated to show you what to do, but if you want this to appear like they're all in the center, make your circle really little that you're going around for your starts of your petals. Okay, so there's our lazy daisy. Okay, next let's do the French knot. So we're going to hold the thread over here to the side with your left hand, and then take your right hand and go around the needle, have it wrap around the needle like this. Then you insert the needle back down pretty much in the same spot as it came out, but just to the left a little bit. And then you want to kind of use that left hand to pull those wraps around the needle. Push it down in. And right when the needle goes in, then use your finger to hold those loops to the thread, to the fabric, and then pull it through. And there's our little French knot. Okay, next let's do the satin stitch. So you can see here I did a heart and I filled it in with the satin stitch, and then I did a concentric heart around that, and then I filled that in with the satin stitch with a different color. So this is what you can use anytime you want to fill in something with a solid color thread. So I drew a little heart here, and I like to start either on the left side or the right side and then move across. So got my thread here, and then I'm gonna think about this in vertical lines. So it doesn't have to be vertical, it can be any direction, but it looks nice if you stay just with lines that go up and down and then filling in the whole thing. So like if we start over here, I'm gonna come up and then it's just gonna be a little vertical line to make the shape of that heart on the edge there. I'm gonna go back in. Okay, so then we're gonna do another one right next to it, but coming up in that line, so it'll just be a little tiny bit lower. Like that. I'm just moving all the way across, just remembering to do vertical lines, but coming up in the line we drew and then going down in the line we drew and making them really close to each other. Just like that. And so you'll just go all the way across until your heart is all the way filled in. And then if you want to clean up the edges, like you can see that I did here, I actually finished it with a split stitch going all the way around the outside of that to make it more of a nice border to the heart. So when we go to finish up, after you've decorated the front of your heart, then you will just take the heart front, heart back, place them together, and then we're going to do the blanket stitch all the way around. Do it almost all the way around, and then leave a hole, and then you can stuff it with whatever you want. I just used some poly fiber fill. You could use some wool fleece, you could use fabric scraps, just whatever pillow stuffing you want to use. So you can see I tied a knot in the end of my strand here. And we want the knot to be hidden inside the ornament, so we don't want to just go in from the outside because then that knot will be on the outside. So we're going to go in from the inside. And I'm actually going to repeat the stitch that I just did here so that it's connected to the ones that I'm going to continue to make. So I'm going to come in from the inside, and I'm going to come out right here where that old one was. And when you pull, your knot ends up on the inside, and that's what we want. Okay, and then you're going to go in from the back, coming through that same spot and letting the thread come over it like that. The thread comes over the needle like that, so that when you pull it, then you have this thread is going to travel around the side of your piece. It's kind of like doing an overcast stitch in sewing. It's kind of like covering that edge where the two pieces meet. So you're just going to kind of hold that there. And then we're going to take another stitch from the back and come forward to the front, trying to line it up where the other ones are, like an imaginary line here at the base of all these. And then we're going to pull it through, but not all the way. And then let the needle come up into the one that's going around the perimeter, like that. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoyed making these little hearts with me. If you liked it, please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel for more. Also, be sure to check out my website to get all of your felt, embroidery floss, needles, and if we still have kits, those will be up there. And I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.